Sure, we've talked a lot about this with our investors, but we really do believe we're entering a new investment and economic regime that is going to look very different than the world we've been in for the last 10 or 20 years. It'll be about higher interest rates, higher inflation, greater volatility, and greater macroeconomic risk. And I think investors are still in the process of adjusting to that new world and thinking what it means for their portfolios and their investment strategies. And we're also trying to condition our portfolio companies that exit conditions are going to be tougher. We went from one of the best IPO markets we've ever seen last year to being a very challenged one today. So we're working closely with our portfolio companies to prepare for that. Well, I think the good news, despite some of the more pessimistic comments about the global economy and global risk, is that innovation and entrepreneurship is alive and well. We're seeing terrific entrepreneurs coming up with lots of new ideas in healthcare, biotech, technology, digital economy businesses, and they're happening everywhere: China, India, Southeast Asia, Latin America, Europe, and the U.S. So the opportunity set is rich, and I think, if anything, accelerating and getting better. So we're focused on all those areas. Geographically, we're quite excited about India right now. We think with 450 million people now on the internet via wireless smartphones, there's a lot of innovation that's happening in that area. So India is a real bright spot. We also think Brazil is going to have some tailwinds from rising commodity prices. Brazil is always an economy that's tied to commodities, food and energy commodities, and we think that will give them an economic tailwind for the next decade. So those are two places. And long term, we're still positive on China. While they still have to emerge from COVID, we've got a very important 20th Party Congress in October. But once we get beyond that, I think we'll start to see China return to growth and the private sector do well. Well, a few things. One, it's a great book called Lifespan by David Sinclair, which is really about wellness and life extension. And one of the areas that is being worked on with cell therapies and another parts of biotechnology is how do we extend the quality and duration of life. And David Sinclair is a professor at Harvard who's been spent his whole career thinking about this. And I think it's an interesting read. Also, I went back and I pulled a great book, a biography on Jim Baker, who was the chief of staff for Ronald Reagan and also this very successful Secretary of State for George H.W. Bush. And really an incredible life of a lawyer from Houston, Texas, who goes to Washington and becomes the ultimate power broker. And it's a throwback to politics in Washington, a very, very different time, a much more collegial time. So I've been enjoying that. And lastly, I have to do a plug for my partner, Anish Batlaw, who has a wonderful new book out called Talent. And one of the main themes of our investing strategy is to build world-class management teams and a real conviction that management excellence is tied to great investment outcomes. And Anish's book really talks about talent strategies of how do you acquire and retain, attract, and motivate the best people to build winning teams. And so that was a book I really enjoyed reading too. Well, it's great to be back at SuperReturn in person in New York and to be with many of my fellow GPs, but also many great global investors. And I have to say, the energy in the room is palpable, and I think people really are enjoying connecting in person as opposed to virtually.